And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer, and we're discussing Why Women Kill Season 2, Episode number 7. If you've not hit the sub button, please do so. We do these reviews every single week. This has been one hell of a show, and I'm very excited to be doing those last 3 episodes. This is episode number 7. There will be 10 in total. And so Rita's in jail. I was shocked how quickly this plot line is moving. Almost set her up in the last episode by having Bertram kill Carlo and then planting the drugs on her, calling Catherine, laying the seeds within her mind that yes, perhaps Rita is the reason Carlo died, and it worked. Everything worked with a few exceptions, and we'll talk about that a little later. But what do you guys think about the plot line in terms of Rita being in jail? I love that she still had a lot of screen time this episode. It just all was from her the waiting room in jail and her talking to essentially every character. But yeah, the Rita storyline.
I I loved it just because it you saw her wheels turning, like trying to figure out who it was that did it. She knows that she has a lot of enemies, and I think that Vern even asks her to like list them. She was like, "You're going to need way more than 5 minutes." Because she's made a lot of enemies over even just the course of this season, and I'm assuming that a lot of other people hate her too because she's a rich, stuck up, uh, not very nice person. For she's just treated everyone like shit since this show has started. But she is innocent of this, and I mean, we know the story that almost framing her, but Vern doesn't believe that it was her, and now there's the picture showing that it wasn't her. But my favorite sequence of her being in jail was her and Scooter. When Scooter came in, was talking to her, and basically just jumped ship, and then said, "Bye, Aunt Rita." Dude, I fucking lost it. I was dying.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, and her reaction to it was pretty funny as well. Like, but I love the amount of turmoil she managed to cause just from jail and talking to people from jail. With those 2 short visits, the amount of turmoil she caused, and the amount of we got Scooter moving forward with his particular plot, and we have Vern potentially taking up an investigation for her now, which caused a lot of events later in the episode, and I'm sure later in the series. And it'll be interesting to see the way that they play Rita being in jail, and how she maneuvers from jail throughout the series, and if she manages to get out or clear her name or any way, or if Alma just got a win, just got a clean victory out of this.
Yeah, and we see that Scooter is making his play with Catherine now. He's basically decided that's who I'm sticking with. She's got the money. She's not in jail. And that's the route he's going to go. Now, will that backfire or not? I don't know. We've jokingly said early on that what if the way this all ends, Scooter ends up inheriting everything? But though it's somewhat being set up in a way, and I'm curious if that in fact would actually happen.
Well,
Right?
I think by the end of it, the only way that he doesn't end up, benefiting a ton from this is that Rita would have to get out, and on the same note, Catherine would have to believe Rita and believe that he was only with her for, the money from the get go. So it's the only way he doesn't win is not very likely because Rita and Catherine hate each other, so they're never going to believe what the other one is saying.
Well, yeah, and even if Vern, presents some evidence and Catherine manages to see it, the question is, like, at this point, given that he's still with her and everything, like, will it matter to her? Will she be a little mad and then they're still together at the end of this, after maybe like a short breakup or something, or will that whole thing just end and, worst case scenario, Scooter winds up going back to Texas with her?
Catherine also has knowledge. She found some letters in Isabel's drawers and basically found that her and Rita killed somebody, like some guy named Harry. She has some proof of that. It maybe not hard evidence, but enough to where she could hire someone to dig into it. Uh, That's a big deal. That caused Isabel basically jump ship, and we learned that she does feel like Rita has treated her like shit, basically, and she was keeping these letters as leverage for when apparently where they had a deal where Rita eventually was going to give her some money after Carlo died, and she was holding them over her. Well, now she has a new weapon. How she's going to use it, I have no idea, and I definitely want your guys' opinion on this because I don't know. Isabel gets the pictures from Vern, and she just so happens to see Alma's face in one of the images, which my assumption is she's putting it together and realizing that Alma had something to do with Carlo's death. That's just an assumption. What does she do with this? How does she use it to benefit her? Who could she show it to where she would gain something out of it? Because in the end of the day, she wants money. So what is her avenue going to be to achieve money? What do you guys think?
I think that showing it to Catherine would not get her money, because then that would help get Rita out. So I think Catherine's out of the picture as far as being one of the possible people for her to not blackmail, but to extort, I guess. She could extort Alma, but Alma has basically fudged with the amount of money she has because of her neighbor. They're more middle class. They're definitely not upper class. So to me, who she'll try and extort is Rita. I think that she's going to be like, hey, I can get you out of jail. And then she's going to be like, what? You can? How? And she's like, well, I can't tell you. I just need to ensure that I'm going to get XYZ before I show you. So I think that she's going to extort Rita. To me, it's the only one that makes sense, because like you said, I think the motivation is money. And I think she loses money if she gives it to Catherine, and she doesn't get enough if she gives it to Alma.
Well, yeah, and I think that she's gonna like in your first line of thought there. I think she'll go with extorting Alma, and I think she'll do that, and this will lead us to a different direction. She'll present the photos to her, and Alma will be like, "Well, we don't have that much," and Isabel will just like, "I don't care, get me the money or else," and it'll lead back to Alma once again stealing her neighbor's possessions and selling those, in order to come up with the cash that Isabel wants.
Do you think this, and this is a long shot, but do you think Isabel could try and work it where she's like, all right, Alma, you killed Carlo, kill Catherine? Like, you think something like that could happen?
That very well could happen.
Yeah.
See, and here's what I was thinking, like either that's going to happen or the thing I mentioned is going to happen. And I feel like if the thing I mentioned happens, then it's going to lead back to, when Vern finally finds evidence of everything, it'll look like Isabel is guilty in some way, because maybe she'll be selling her Isabel, like either she'll be handing assets of her neighbor to Isabel, or she'll be selling off stuff to pay off Isabel in some way, but yeah, she may try to get them to kill off Catherine, but then again, she wouldn't get anything from that. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, because the end conversation she had with Rita was basically like, well, fuck you, I'm jumping ship, because she didn't trust her. So for her to set up Alma to basically help get Rita out, to me, makes the least amount of sense, because then she was ready to jump ship. She was ready to basically leave Rita rotting in jail. So they're not as close of cousins as we were led to believe at the beginning. She was just like, all right, well, fine, bye. But now I think that she can use that information to extort her family member. So that's the reason I think it's going that direction. But
yeah,
I would not be surprised if it went any one of the other 19 directions.
Alma has. Oh, go ahead, Larry.
Well, yeah, and she may blackmail them anonymously. They might just get something in the mail, like a copy of one of the photos or something, and send money to this address or this PO box, or else, that kind of thing. And who knows how that'll spin things.
Alma has launched a campaign to muddy Rita's name by basically telling the Garden Club, or a member of the Garden Club, that Rita wanted to get rid of Carlo, and just this whole story about Rita and Rita having an affair, and she wanted a divorce, or he wanted a divorce, and if that spread immediately. So the entire Garden Club's all discussing that Rita is the killer and all this stuff. So she's launching this campaign against Rita Not just getting her locked up, but now her socially, Rita's name is getting damaged, and I'm curious how that's going to play. Grace came to visit her and basically was like, "Hey, I want you in the club," which got Alma very excited. I still wonder, going back several episodes, when Rita claimed that she had dirt on Grace, is that true? Will that play in some way? I don't know. Grace keeps popping up in the story.
You know what? I think the whole Grace plot line is or at least Grace is part of the story, is to show how far Alma has gone. Because what if we get to a situation where Grace kind of figures out things, or Grace steps on her toes slightly just by considering something, or like maybe she does find out a little bit something, and then almost like, oh yeah, well, if you don't do this, or you don't do this thing my way, something small, even, she's like, if you don't do this small thing my way, well, then maybe the rest of the Garden Club finds out about your affair. And that would show Rita's change in a very real way, because not Rita, Alma's changed in a very real way, because now this is her blackmailing someone who fought to get her a place in this Garden Club, who's possibly like one of her truest friends that we've seen in the series.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna spin that, because Alma, I have a lot of favorite scenes. I just love the way the show is done. But when Alma went and basically spreading rumors, she was looking for the one person she knew was going to tell everybody, because, like you said, Grace is her confidant and her good friend. But when she sought out the loudmouth, the gossip queen, that was 100% to start instilling those rumors like immediately. And I don't know that Grace won't pick up on that, because Grace seems to be pretty smart. And now afterwards, she came and talked to her and she was like, "Hey, we want you to be part of the Garden Club." But Grace seems to be one of the more put together characters and one of the smarter characters. So I think that Grace and God, what's her husband? Ben. What's the husband's name?
Bertram.
Birdie. I kept wanting to say Benny, but I knew that wasn't right. But I think that Birdie and Grace might be Alma's undoing, and I don't think it's going to be Rita.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. In fact, like, for one, I think that Grace will try, and Alma will kind of check her, and that, because I feel like Alma doesn't just want to be a part of the Garden Club anymore. She wants to be the new Rita. She wants to be the one who everyone's afraid to step on in any way, or afraid to check. So Grace will try to say, "Hey, that was a little mean. You didn't have to do that," or whatever. And Alma's like, "Okay, well, I mean, you may want to go along with this unless you want everyone telling me about your little affair," and like, she'll be pushing in a way that Rita pushes, and manipulating people in that way. And I think now that she's kind of shown her hand with Bertram, that eventually, Bertram will sort of see things the way that she was trying to convince him to see things in this episode, except he'll see that with her, that it's like, oh, you're suffering, you're always pushing for this thing, you've turned into this sort of evil thing, and the best thing for me to do is what I've done with my previous, patience and whatnot. And, we'll likely end with Bertram deciding to put Alma down the way that he's done certain people.
And how fucking funny is this? We have a legit serial killer who's killed like 20 some odd people, and he seems less like a piece of shit than his wife does.
Yeah, that's the irony of it, that Bertram's one of your better characters on the show. This, he's a serial killer, and he's sure, like, and it's like, and yet so many other people seem significantly worse, just manipulate and mess with people than he does. He just has a horrible perspective on things that drives him to do the wrong thing 100%. And and it seems like he was even making an effort to stop. But whereas we have Alma and Rita, who aren't actually, we don't know about Rita anymore now that we've learned a little bit about her past.
She's killed at least one person.
At least one person. We have all these other people that seem like they're significantly worse, with the exception of Dee and I can't remember the detective's name right now.
Vern Loomis.
Vern. Yeah.
And speaking of Vern not only is morally the best character in the show, but what's going to happen as he's a very good at his job. You know, even him calculating that Rita is not the murderer. You know, he's like, I'm not saying you wouldn't kill anybody. I'm just saying this isn't how you would do it. And so now that he's on the case, he's going to figure this thing out to some degree. I believe he will. And what does he do when he's faced with the fact that the woman he loves and is going to marry, her parents are killers now? And that's a huge. I don't know what happens with that storyline. Like that's the storyline that might be the most heartbreaking by the ending.
Yeah, because when you look at Bertram, he was led to believe what he was doing was right. Now, some of the people who he helped end their suffering, probably he did a good thing, but if I remember correctly, one of the people was an alcoholic.
That was my favorite.
So it wasn't like they were dying. Not like so it was.
They had a really bad hangnail.
Yeah. So it was some of the people whose suffering he ended weren't legit worthy of their lives being ended, but that was all twisted by Alma. Hey, she was ruining my life. I'm like, what the fuck? Like it. Yes, she was shitty. However, had she never wanted to join that club, Rita wasn't seeking her out to hurt her feelings. Rita sought her out because her daughter was sleeping with Scooter. Like it. That's how all of the super revenge stuff started. Yes, she didn't really care for Alma, but Alma was winning Rita over until she saw that. And then it kind of went left. So for Alma to say that she's, I'm trying to remember how she put it, but it was basically she was injuring me. She was hurting me. So I was just ending my suffering. And I was
she described her as cancerous.
Yeah.
And she was, getting rid of the cancer and the suffering she brought on her and all that.
Yeah. So for Alma to equate that, and for Dee to show that she's okay with Vern going after the case, he was like, you know what? She's an awful person, but you're right. I don't think that she would do this. And as long as you think she's innocent, you do the right thing. So Dee's mindset is she's not even holding a grudge against Rita. She's just like, yeah, well, she got me fired, but you know what? If you don't think she's guilty, go ahead and help her. Meanwhile, her mom is trying to get her, set up for murder. And so, like you said, when this all comes out to Dee, that one parent's a serial killer and one's a manipulative, like, person trying to get other people killed and playing the victim. Like, I think you're right, though. I think it's going to crush Dee, but I think by the end of it, Dee's going to feel like she was being manipulated, and she's going to be okay with turning her parents in, or turning her mom in. I don't know that she'll turn her dad in.
Well, yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think the situation we're going here, like Vern will figure things out, and he'll think that it's going to ruin the relationship, and I think we're going for that old romantic comedy trope where he thinks because of the way things are going to play out that the relationship is going to end. So maybe he even plans to leave town because he, and leave her a letter or something, and and so he turns in the evidence, and he's about to get on the bus, but Dee stops him and everything, and because I feel like those two are going to have a happy ending. That'll be the only happy part of the way this ends is their relationship. And like I mentioned, I love that you mentioned the words that Alma used, and because that's part of what I think is going to make this end with Bertram killing hers, that she mentioned that she was hurting, that she was suffering, that it felt like a cancer to her. And now Bertram is going to see how many people that Alma hurts. And he's going to see that as everyone makes you suffer, you're in chronic pain. This is typically why I do what I do. It's like, and I care about you most. So, like we'll end on that with him putting on the music and getting the needles out and everything.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that playing out like that. It's fun. As much comedy is in this show, I think there's definitely potential for a really dark ending. I mean, it's. Do you think that she hasn't come up a lot, not lately, but Miss Yost? You know, that storyline. I keep waiting for that detective to show back up, or something big to hit that's connected with that case. We still have 3 episodes, but I have a feeling that that's might be coming soon. I'm assuming they still have the dog. They I haven't even seen the dog.
I have a theory. Now that we were just talking about it and what we've just said previously, it kind of sparked one. But if Isabel shows Rita the picture, shows Alma there, then that would give them probable cause to search Alma's house. So what happens when they go into Alma's house and start seeing all these things? Because they've already been in Miss Yost's house. So they know the color scheme, they know what's missing. They may not know specifically, but they walk into her house and all of a sudden they're like, well, this picture is the exact same size of the picture missing in her house. Or, they might start putting some of the things together as far as that being stolen. And probable cause to search her property, they may stumble across something. The dog may go apeshit and start digging again. I think that the detective, because he's the one that showed up at Rita's house, I think once Rita is able to perhaps get out of jail, she might start pointing the finger at Alma, and it may go the opposite direction.
Well, yeah, you're right. There's so many things pointed at them, like the dog. Even if the dog, because I two options in my opinion. Either Alma killed the dog, or the dog is still in the backyard, because they mentioned putting the dog in the backyard afterwards and everything, and they keep it there from now on. Either way, there's going to be a lot of things that will lead back to them. Like you said, the picture, that's different. The fact that they're going to hear from the neighbors that, oh yeah, Alma and Bertie were watching Mrs. Yost's dog, and it's like, wait a minute, everything related to Mrs. Yost seems to point back to them. This picture here, and then like maybe they'll even find the hedge clippers that she fell on and everything, and it's just like there's so much evidence pointing their direction. And Bertram had so many keepsakes. What are the odds that Vern won't find one of those keepsakes?
Well, and remember too, I don't know how much the detective is going to dig in, but maybe if he starts looking at Alma, her old boyfriend. I don't feel like this show has given us false leads. The show has pretty much intentionally showed us everything. And I don't think that that's going to be an unimportant thing come towards the end. I think that all of those kind of things, if it doesn't lead to her getting arrested because of that, it's going to lead to Bertram's jealousy and anger towards her, because that made him really mad. But I think that could be a huge turning point where he saw them in her car. He saw Alma and Bertram drive in Mrs. Yost's car, and the timeline that she went missing. And so there's a lot of things that would point in her direction. And if they found the body, there's so many things that could tie that together to where he would be an important character witness, that I am curious, not necessarily if he'll come back, but when he'll make an appearance.
I don't have much more else to say, but I would like to bring up that when they were having the dinner that evening, Alma and Bertram and Vern and Dee, the dessert she was serving looked so damn good. It was like a strawberry cake thing. I was like, damn. That was an example of like, man, that's a big ass piece of cake. I want a piece. But the yeah, I don't really have much else to say. Anything else you guys want to talk about regarding like I said, we still got 3 episodes.
Yeah, when you brought up that cake, I started trying to do reduced sugar. I can't say carb free because I'm a type 1 diabetic and my sugar's all over the place, but so less. Yeah, exactly. But I also started working out. So when I saw that cake, all I fucking wanted was a big old piece of cake.
Oh yeah.
So bad.
Dude, it looks so good.
I know. I was trying to think of where I could get a big piece of strawberry cake. I was like,
Well, it was because when I saw it, like I got distracted. I almost had to rewind. I didn't hear what they were saying. I was like, God damn, I want some cake. And like she's like serving it up, and I'm just like, whew. But yeah.
Yeah, it did look really good. You know, in fact, heck, you got me ordering a piece of cake just now. Like I just went on Uber Eats.
Anything else?
no, that's it.
Yeah, I think that's everything.
You can Uber Eats one of those pieces of cake my way.
Oh. All right. Yeah. Well, yeah, 3 left. Can't wait to see how this thing resolves. As I said up front, we'll be doing these. We do these every single week. So please hit the sub button, hit that up vote. It definitely helps push the video. Leave a comment, and we will see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.